They're waiting.
You're hearing the same thing I'm hearing. I'm just seeing the other people that are going to speak. So I got to go. Okay.
Anyway, I apologize for being a little bit late, but I've been having some technical difficulties, and however, I seem to be now, everything seems to be in order. So let me just, Josh, can you pull up the agenda, please, on the screen?
Yes, I'll get that posted right now.
Thank you, thank you. Lovely. So I would just like to open this annual general meeting of the English-Speaking Union of the United States on our 100th anniversary. Momentous and a wonderful week for all of us. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Rosanna, Josh, and the whole team in the office and outside the office for all the work that you've done. The gala was wonderful. It was absolutely brilliant. I think everybody enjoyed it thoroughly. I've had so many people compliment me and say how much they enjoyed it, and in particular how much they enjoyed the performance of the Rhapsody in Blue. That was quite exceptional. And what a wonderful way also to have a message from the president the honorary president of our organization, the Princess Royal, and to have her announce the award of the Princess Royal Award for the first time, that this has been given as part of our 100th anniversary. And this award, as you probably heard, is something now that will be enshrined within the ESU worldwide. And it will be an award that will be given throughout the world to those who have supported and who have done sterling work on behalf of the ESU globally. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our president, E. Quinn Pieper, for his report. Quinn.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Welcome everybody, and let me start by giving you a membership report. From the year 2019-2020, we have 3,361 members, including the national patron and the board members. The total membership in 2018-2019 was 3,976, and compared to 2016-2017, total members was 4,649. So we do face a problem of declining membership, and we've got to get very aggressive, and I think we should in our centenary year of addressing this problem, because the numbers are falling. The patrons in 2016-2017 were 434, and this year they've declined to 360. So the largest branches, just for your interest, Shreveport has 249 members, Central Florida 203, Palm Beach 201, Greenwich 180, Sand Hills Pinehurst 167, the Research Triangle 132, and Philadelphia 112. Do you all have the complete president's report in front of you? Is that an attachment that people have?
No, we can send it later.
I think we should send it later. I mean, it is very detailed and it's very important.
Yes.
I think that people do see this. In 2019-2020, the ESU had 42 new memberships and 55 new couples, all right? The National Patron Program, as I said before, the numbers this year have fallen, but given the circumstances of the pandemic, I think we're doing extremely well. There's always room for improvement. The branches with the largest number of patrons are as follows. New Orleans, 26, and this is surpassing New York for the first time. New York, 21, Atlanta, 14, Seattle, 12, Washington, D.C., 10. The annual board giving campaign is something I'm very involved with, and I'm very proud of the work that our board does, and thank you all. Congratulations to you all. The annual board campaign started in 2014 when I became president. We raised $52,000 and the goal was $35,000. This year we've raised $60,000. The goal was $80,000, but it must be understood that this campaign only just got off the ground in September. All right, so we still have a lot of the year to go, and we already have a robust showing. Our board members are doing extremely well. 21 out of 25 have given their contributions, and then there are pledges that will be forthcoming. In addition to the annual board contributions that they made, different people on the board gave over and above the annual board campaign. So the total board giving last year was $180,000 with the average gift of $7,530 and a median of $2,100. 3 board members gave more than $10,000 each. And again, thank you so much for helping to raise money for our great mission and our cause. Endowment fundraising has been impressive. The Centennial Evelyn Ranch Series Endowment is a new endowment. The goal is $600,000. And since July 1, we have raised, July 1 of 2019, we've raised $220,000. We have $379,000 to go. The Centennial ESU National Shakespeare Competition Endowment, the goal is $1 million. And since July 1 of 2019, we have $154,000 to go. Oh, we have $154,000. We have yet to raise $125,000. And currently the total amount in this endowment is $775,000. That's extremely good. The Luard Morse Scholarships Endowment, the goal is $500,000. Since July 1, 2019, we have $44,000, and we have to raise $53,500. I also want to commend the branches. There are many branches who have given of their branch funds to the national, and this is extremely wonderful. The following branches made gifts to the endowments. The Central Florida made $20,000. Providence, $13,506. Kentucky, $10,000. Naples, $10,000. New Orleans, $10,000. Boston, $5,000. Denver, $2,000. And Charleston, $500. So kudos and congratulations to all of you who have voted to give through your branch a gift to help support these national programs and endowments. For those of you who have not, I would urge you to consider doing this because this is our year. 2020's big year for us to ensure that the future of the ESU can continue another 100 years. And doing it through endowing our programs is only going to strengthen our mission. There are other Centennial funds that are in the works. There's a refurbishing of the Garden Lounge that's in the bottom floor of the national headquarters. There's also an unrestricted Centennial fund. There are other donations excluding endowments that we have received. And the funds as follows. I think I will let you see this in the report. A particular interest this year, there was a COVID emergency funds appeal that raised $56,000 and provided assistance to students in the programs, including ARNIC. And in the report, you will see some notes that people have written. I might share one with you or two. Heartwarming feedback here as follows. I want to warmly thank you for the emergency fund. I cannot describe how much it means to me at this moment. It is moving to know we're not alone. And another one, I have been looking for words that can express my gratitude for all the support I've received from the ARNIC program, but I can't find them. Foundations. The Marietta Andrew Romay Foundation continues to support us for the ARNIC program. They gave us a $200,000 annual grant. And in addition to that, we have other foundations, the Axe Houghton Foundation, $5,000 for middle school debate. The Henry E. Niles Foundation, $5,000 for middle school debate. The Richard Duncan Foundation, $3,000 for middle school debate. And the PNC Foundation, $2,500 for the ARNIC Emergency Fund, and Guardian, $2,500 for the ARNIC Emergency Fund, or for the ARNIC program in general. So I think all in all, the report, financial gifts, giving, grants, we are in very good health. The year is young. The centenary is young. There's still time. I would urge everybody to please urge people to support and get other branches to support, any support you can, so that we can get our funds and our programs endowed and have a good future. And we will send you a copy of this president's report for your viewing, which will follow the annual general meeting. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Quinn. Very powerful report, and I'm happy. Well, I'm happy for you that the New Orleans branch is way out there in the patron support. I think a bit of a kick in the pants for New York, but I think we're going to have to work a little harder at encouraging more patrons to join the organization. But thank you very much. I'll now move on to the nominating committee, and I'll ask Duncan Karcher to present the slate of candidates for ESU National Board Directorship, and for us, or for you as a community, to vote on those persons. Duncan, to you.
Great, thank you, Dr. Paul. So the nominating committee consists of the following individuals: Betty Miller, Karen Blair Brand, Bill Mashmeyer, Susan Robbins Sinclair, and Dr. Quinn Pieper. And I just want to thank them for just being so thoughtful and vocal with their recommendations and their comments. So with that said, as chairman of the National Nominating Committee, as constituted under Article 7, Section 7.7 of the National Bylaws, it is my duty and privilege to place in nomination the following slate of candidates for election to the National Board of Directors at the annual general meeting held via conference call today on October 23rd, 2020. So directors at large that are eligible for re-election currently are the following: Cheryl Albuquerque from Palo Alto, California, myself from New York, Betty Miller from Chapman, Alabama, E. Quinn Pieper from New Orleans, Louisiana, Julia Vanderwater, Lexington, Virginia, Janet Vanderpool Hedeke from Monroe, Louisiana. And we have two new candidates this year for election. Susan Matheson Ferris, who some of you may know already, from Portland, Oregon. And then we have another individual, Genevieve Brown Metzger. You see, she's currently from New York, but in about 2 months, she's going to be moving to Florida. So that'll change. But with that said, do I have a motion to approve? And this year, we're going to have to approve in the chat.
Motion to approve from anyone?
Thank you, Thomas.
Second?
Second, John Raffelli.
John,
Thank you,
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're
So
going
for the
to-
voting,
So
I'm actually going
this
to
year,
open a poll.
yes. So this year, we're going to have to actually vote online here. So if you could just please vote on the slate, but only if you're a delegate or a proxy on the poll function. And Josh will help us out with this. So we're going to give you a few minutes basically just to familiarize yourself. And this is the only vote we're going to have to do today. So just be aware of that. But let's give you a few minutes just to submit your vote right now, yay, nay, or abstain. And then Josh will let us know once we have enough received.
All right, with only one abstention, the motion unanimously passes.
Thank you very much indeed, everyone. I appreciate that. This is a kind of new thing for us to have an official online vote. This is it just shows you how you can adapt so quickly to changing norms, technologies. If we hadn't had the pandemic, it probably would have taken years for people to agree to have an online meeting to begin with, and another couple of years to agree to do online voting. But woo, when needs must, the devil drives, as they say. So thank you very much indeed. I'll now hand over to John Raffelli and ask John to give us the report of the Finance Committee.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. I'm pleased to make summary comments about the unaudited fiscal year 2020 financials. As you all can relate, in July 2019, when this all began, everything was pretty normal, and it certainly didn't end up that way. About 8 months into this, everything was upside down, and we had to rethink it all. But a lot of people stepped up. The board stepped up, the finance committee stepped up, the staff stepped up, and the branches did as well. And we've emerged from this in pretty good shape. We've reviewed this material with the Finance Committee and with the full board, and what I'll do now, and I'd also like to, before I do that, I'd like to thank the Finance Committee who's been helping us watch over this. I'm going to try to do this in alphabetical order, and hopefully I won't miss anyone, but Donald Best, Julia Hanson, Judge Kerr, David Martinelli, Daryl McCormick, Donna Miller. The Finance Committee really did yeoman's work this year in addition with, certainly Karen and Angela in particular to keep the wings on this plane. So what I'll do now is I'll make some remarks about revenues, expenses, and investments. But with respect to revenues, gross revenues were essentially flat year to year, but a little bit more of it by design has moved to the branches. Contributions were up significantly, almost 300,000 or more than 300,000 actually. And the majority of that was a bequest. It was allocated pretty equally to Wrench, Shakespeare Endowment, and general purposes. Not surprisingly, education income fell dramatically from $527,000 to $126,000. But because of mostly the removal of in-kind donations, but there were some COVID-19 impact on that as well. Special events, again, not a surprise, a big fall from year to year, dropped by about 45,000. So with respect to national revenues, 1.8 million was raised, which was down about 10% from the year before. Now let me shift over to expenses. So expenses were higher for speakers and conferences, reflecting the reintroduction of the Wrench speaker program. Educational expenses, though, fell dramatically, 40%, and again, mostly COVID-19 related. And expenses and this is another item that's no surprise, for fundraising and development were up about $100,000 because we had to pre-spend for a Centennial branding and related expenses. Good news here, branch services expenses doubled, and that's because we're providing more support to the branches. So expenses fell for the year by about $500,000. It should be noted that we also received a payroll protection plan loan, PPP, of $169,900. It's on the books currently as an account payable, but we believe it's going to be forgiven eventually. So that's that. Now investments, another important item, because we started the year with investments, the fiscal year in July 2019 with investments of $13,135,000. Those fell dramatically in the midst of the pandemic, and Morse Asset Management did a spectacular job of salvaging that. The expenses initially fell by 7 figures, but we ended the fiscal year, June 30th, 2020, with a little bit more, $13,174,000. And the even better news is, as of the end of September, it's up over 14,000, which is about 7% above where we started. So when you think about it, that was our biggest worry coming through this. And we came out pretty well. So we're very happy about that. So that concludes my remarks, unless there are any questions.
Any questions or observations from the floor?
And if you have questions, enter them into the chat, please.
Josh, could you move the agenda up a little bit on the screen? Okay, there being no further questions, John, I thank you very, very much indeed I know it's been a worrisome year for you and all of you on the board, on the finance committee, but here we have come through it. Bruce Hefner has asked, will we receive a copy of the finance committee report?
They will receive copies of the slides that we're doing today and all the written reports.
Okay, the slides and all the written reports, you will be receiving copies of those. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to Noel Sloan and ask him to deliver the report of the audit committee.
Thank you, Paul. I'll start with the bad news, and I'm happy to tell you that it gets increasingly good after that. The bad news, which I think many of you already know, is that we had a qualified opinion from the auditors last year. Their main criticism was that they didn't have enough evidence of oversight by National over the branches. The good news, and it gets increasingly good, is we've hired a completely new team to address this. We have a wonderful new finance director, Angela Larson, and she has hired 2 people to help her, Tony and Jenny. They've been working very closely with the branches. We now have all the forms that we need from the branches. We are way, way ahead of where we were last year in that. So a very big thank you to the branches. I know that this is a great deal of work for you to do, to fill in these forms. So many, many thanks. The auditors are already in-house now. They have completed their review of National. They spent 1 day with Angela, and they said that in 1 day they achieved what it took them 2 weeks to achieve last year. They've already given some very favorable feedback on the way that Angela and her team have organized the data from the branches. And beginning next week, they're going to be going through that branch data. I really don't want to jinx us in any way, but I do think there are cautious grounds for optimism grounds for cautious optimism, I should say, that this year we will get a clean opinion. So it's a real issue of, I think, fingers crossed, hoping for the best, but we've all done a great deal of work. So I want to thank the new team at National. I really want to thank the branches for all you've done. And I thank the audit committee, who's worked very hard. And there are some people standing down, so I will thank them. Charles Reeves, my predecessor, has stood down, so I thank him. Judge Kerr and Bill Mashmeyer are going off the board, so they're standing down as committee members. But they've all played an invaluable role. And if there are any questions, I will seek to answer them.
Thank you very much, Noel. Any questions on the audit? No? All right. Thank you very, very much indeed. It's always nice to have the bad news first and then to have good news that really overwhelms the bad news. So I think between that and how our investments have been going this year, I think it's all pretty much good news. David, thank you. You're right, sounding great, Noel, and it is. I'll now ask our Executive Director, Karen Kapowicz, if she'd be kind enough to deliver her report. Karen.
Anyway, hello, everyone. I want to mention the fact that it was a year ago today in Washington, D.C., when we launched the activities for the Centennial year. And we got off to a very good start in the spring and the winter and in the spring. We successfully launched a new logo. And I want to thank everyone that was involved in that process in terms of the review of the old logo and also the recommendations for the new one. We've launched it in the late winter, early spring, and I think everyone's been very satisfied with it and happy with what we've come up with. So I congratulate everyone for their support. Also, we pulled together our Centennial Gala Steering Committee. And I want to thank the steering committee under Quinn Pieper's direction that successfully kind of helped us through a very kind of odd period. And we adapted very quickly to what the needs were in terms of what we had to do. It wasn't a straight line. It was a kind of bumpy one and not really knowing what the end result was going to be. But I think through the hard work of the committee and through everyone in National, we've successfully had a good event. Not perfect, but a good event, and we've learned a lot from it. And I know you've all enjoyed it, and we loved the fact that you were here for us, and thank you for being here for us. I also was very grateful for the feedback that we had received during the Centennial Roadshows. And I think that you were very honest with us with regard to the pandemic and with what your concerns were as far as your programming and everything else is concerned. And we are trying to make the right adjustments to support you through the rest of this Centennial year, which is why we introduced the whole concept of storytelling and recording our history through that. So there'll be more to come on that. And there'll be more online events and Zoom presentations throughout the Centennial year to keep us connected and to keep everyone involved through the process. I also want to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the building. We were very successful even through the pandemic of getting our certificate of occupancy, which is now going to allow us to move forward with a lot of refurbishments in the building. And that was a big piece of the puzzle that we had to complete before we could move forward. But additionally, we've been working with the building, and we've been kind of, as landlords, we're responsible for all the issues during the pandemic that you have to deal with. So we've been doing things like dealing with cleanliness and issues around ventilation and things like that, because now we have about half of the staff that does work in the office on a regular basis. And we are committed to keeping everyone safe and being in sync with New York State regulations and the CDC. So that's been going on pretty extensively. And I want to thank our new operations manager, Angela Larson, and Stefan LeBron, who has really kind of spearheaded those efforts. And I think we're all going to come out wiser and better as a result of all of this work. So I also want to thank all the branches who've been very, very responsive and receptive to all the changes at hand, because we've moved so many things over to Zoom, and people have been really rising to the occasion through Zoom meetings having to do with our Centennial, but also through our, through the audit process. And this will continue in the year as a key point of keeping us informed and improving our communication capabilities. So I do thank you. So now, without further ado, what I'd like to do is I'd like to move to the program reports. And I've asked each one of the program managers to go through their individual programs. And I think we have Betty first. Betty?
Good afternoon, everyone. Josh, if I could just ask you to pull up the slide on the screen. Again, thank you, Karen, for having me here. It's exciting to share with you what's going on in Shakespeare, both this past year and what is upcoming. So since its inception, the competition has served over 360,000 students, 2,000 teachers, thousands of competitions across the country. And the competition, as we all know, is a performance-based education program that inspires high school students to read, analyze, and perform Shakespeare's monologues and sonnets. I should also add that we are the first competition of its kind and the oldest, predating both thespians and poetry out loud. Josh, if we could have the next slide. 2020 was a very difficult year, but we embodied the premise that the show must go on, and we celebrated our 100th anniversary by employing every available technology to produce a digital version of the National Shakespeare Competition. And as needs must, we created new ways to engage with both teachers and students and our branch members. This was our first all digital competition in response to COVID. We had the first ever Teachers Recognition Award, which is in keeping with the mission of the ESU to support educators and learners of English. The first People's Choice Award, which was an outreach initiative, reached 9,500 people from the US and as far away as China, Brazil, and Japan, generating interest and exposure for both the competition and the organization as a whole. We also had, and we hope you've all received your copies of the first commemorative yearbook, which was produced for branches and for the students as a tangible memento of the event. The young lady in the corner is Ava Bloom, who is a tender 14 years old and was our winner. She is from the Washington, D.C. branch. Josh, the next slide, please. So there are new developments and new initiatives for 2021 because we have to keep growing and facing whatever challenges come. New challenges require new ideas, and the ESU is ready. We have new writing competitions, new strategic partnerships, and new resources for teachers, all connected to the Shakespeare competition. One example of that we'd like to share with you today is the Frankenstein competition. This was a writing competition and a PD opportunity that was done in partnership with the Morgan Library and Museum. It was a free PD for 35 teachers from across the US, which was provided by our partner, the Morgan Library. They included free virtual museum tours and class materials for teachers. There were 4 prompts, rigorous but accessible for middle and high school students. We received over 200 responses from over 15 states, including some that had no ESU branch. We were further promoted by prestigious, hopefully future partners, including the National Honor Society, the American Heritage Society, the National English Honor Society, and from Kansas City, the Heart of America Shakespeare Festival. This program was executed at very low cost and with existing staff. It increased exposure for the organization, for our branches, and the Shakespeare competition, and is indicative of the type of initiatives that we plan on launching in the future. Thank you so much.
Alice?
Hello, everyone. It's my pleasure to report to you on some of our different international education programs. Starting off with one that's been getting much more attention, and rightly so this year. It was such a pleasure to attend the gala and see Larry Morse, who is one of our stellar alums of this program, and without his support, it wouldn't really exist today. As you've all heard, it's a merit-based program which provides $25,000 scholarships for students from historically Black colleges and universities to study at a British university of their choice during their junior year. As with many of the international education programs, everything is evolving in reaction to COVID. As you'll see on the slide, Nicholas Whiteside is one of our alums who did attend last fall, King's College London, and is very grateful to the ESU. It's a scholarship that really impacts people so strongly, and we're very grateful to our alum and especially the scholarship committee, who you'll see members of in the picture on the screen right now. Mackenzie Clark was awarded the scholarship for 2020-2021, and we're hopeful. She has been accepted to Goldsmiths. As with many of the international programs right now, we are in communication with the UK and moving forward with what is best for the students. So we're all very hopeful that she'll be able to attend this spring. Josh, if you could move to the next slide, please. The Secondary School Exchange, which is an international program which is near and dear to many people's hearts. It is the oldest ESU education program. It's also a merit-based scholarship. It's a gap year program, and it is an exchange between the US and the UK. This is one of my favorite pictures. It's our students at Dartmouth House, which has annually held a Thanksgiving dinner. This year it is on hold. We are in communication both with our scholarship committee, who in the US is a very dedicated committee and very eager to keep it moving. So we are in communication, and as soon as we can move forward, we will be. Josh, if you could move to T-Lab. This is one of my personal favorite programs. It's been in operation since 1957, and it just impacts so many lives, from the teachers who study from 2 to 6 weeks. Josh, thank you. And so many alums who become integral parts of the branches, such as Kate, I remember being a T-Lab alum. Also Bridget Barkin in the Connecticut branch. So we are moving forward. Many of you have received emails to me. I've received branch participation forms, and we will be updating the website as information becomes available. This is also one of my favorite pictures of Oxford on a sunny day. And I'll be holding a breakout session later this afternoon. And the alum who I included a quote from, Stephen Weber, he will be joining me. He's the New York City teacher and also an ESU New York branch member. And as you see there, he says it's a gift that keeps on giving. And it's such a strong part of his life and the community. And the ESU is so much about community. So not only the impact from education and learning, but he is still utilizing what he learned at the Globe and still in communication with the teachers that he met through that program. So it really just does have, so many of our education programs have such strong roots. So I look forward to many of you joining us later this afternoon on that. Julia is going to be also leading the breakout session, and she is an alum of the T-Lab for Lifelong Learners. The Page to Stage is a very popular program. I have been in touch with all our UK partners, Oxford, Shakespeare's Birthplace Trust. We're basically monitoring the situation, and we'll be providing information to all the branches and updating our website as that becomes available. And Josh, the next slide. This seems more important than ever. The middle school debate program, in partnership with Claremont McKenna College, the ESU's middle school debate program works with students from grades 5 to 8. And we've pivoted, as so many programs have had to Zoom. And we're actually utilizing a new platform. We had our first tournament in October, a novice scrimmage, and the actual first tournament will be on November 7th. It's just amazing how many students and teacher coaches are impacted. As you'll see, we did have last year 22 tournaments that students debated in. The championships did take place on Zoom, and I was a part of the scrimmage this past October, and it was just amazing to me. The middle school debate tournaments literally last all day long, and the students were so enthusiastic, the coaches, the teacher, the judges. There's just so much room to grow this program, and we'd like to get more branches involved. And I think that's it for those programs.
Okay, hi, I'm Helena Fontaine. I'm coordinating the French speaker program. So the program brings eminent British and American speakers each year to the ESU branches who host their presentations. French speakers address topics relating to current events, history, language and literature, art and architecture, and travel. Regional tours of French speakers are underwritten by the ESU national headquarters and are planned in cooperation with the branches. And now, of course, due to COVID, all French speaker events are held online. Josh, next slide. So this year, the first speaker we had was Elizabeth Sun-Jin, who spoke about her book, Lady of the Tower. The first tour of Elizabeth started in February, and she visited our branches in Central Florida, Savannah, Atlanta, and Jacksonville. And the second tour started in early March, and she had the chance to visit New Orleans, Denver, and Kansas City before COVID forced the cancellation of the rest of the tour to Memphis and Nashville. Elizabeth was also the speaker of the first national online event, which we organized in June. In October, we had another national online event with Anna Maria Dalanese, whose speech was a tour of Shakespeare's London. And yet another speaker that we had planned for last spring was Sir Christopher Hum, a former ambassador to China. Unfortunately, we needed to cancel his tour, but we're still communicating with him and looking forward to have him as a French speaker in near future. And next month, we will have another national online event. The speaker is Hilary Davidson. Hilary is a dress, textile, and fashion historian and curator, and she's going to speak about her book, Dress in the Age of Jane Austen. Her event will be on November 17th, and everyone will get an invite to the event. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rona, and I'm the Senior Manager of Immigrant Programs. I'm delighted to be here to share some information with you about our programs for English language learners. Our immigrant programs, like all of the ESU's educational initiatives, reflect the mission and the vision of the ESU to expand minds, strengthen friendships, and unlock opportunities. We have two programs for English language learners. The first is the one that you're probably the most familiar with, English in Action, or EIA as we call it. So for more than half a century, English in Action has been bringing together newcomers to the US with volunteers to practice English. The program has three goals: to improve English language proficiency, to build confidence, and to create opportunities for cross-cultural exchange. English in Action connects communities that otherwise would never have the chance to meet. And in the process, our worldviews and perspectives are challenged and broadened. The second program is the Andrew Romaine New Immigrant Center, or ARNIC as we call it. This program empowers recent immigrants by giving them the skills, resources, and networks they need to build successful lives in the US. It's a scholarship program for recent immigrants, and its goals are to improve English language proficiency, to provide opportunities to participate in professional development opportunities, and to integrate more fully into US civic and cultural life. Josh, next slide. Thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the impact of our programs. So let's look at English in Action first. Volunteers, as you know, are the heart of English in Action. Without them, the program would not exist. In 2019 to 2020, volunteers in EIA clocked in 38,000 volunteer hours tutoring students. For those of you who attended our breakout session yesterday, you had the opportunity to hear firsthand from volunteers and students in our program about the benefits and impact of the program. We survey our students and our tutors to get information from them about the impact of the program. So in 2019 to 2020, 92% of our volunteers said that they learned about other cultures through participating in the program. And 91% of volunteers felt a sense of engagement and accomplishment that they could give back to their communities. On the student side, we actually survey students during every class cycle and on an annual basis for EIA. So 90% of the students reported that they felt confident using English in everyday life, and 86% felt comfortable using English in professional settings. Next slide. This gives you an idea of the top countries over the last year of our students in English in Action. It changes from year to year, but really it is a global community, and anyone who has had the opportunity to experience the program stepping into the doors of the ESU would be delighted to see the connections that are made not only between students and tutors, but amongst people participating in the program from all of the different corners of the world. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to turn to the impact of the ARNIC program. This program is probably less known to you. It's based in New York at national headquarters. Over the last year, we served 305 new immigrants. Their median income during 2019 to 2020 was $13,750, and that is before the pandemic. In terms of program success, 96% over the last year of our students reported that their English language had improved. 93% reported an increased knowledge of US culture, and 83% indicated that their professional networks had expanded through participation in our job search workshops, our career days, and other professional development opportunities. We were not yet, the next slide, we were able to offer 65 English classes this year, covering about 25 different themes or topics. And 75% of our students participated in online classes once we switched to remote platforms. Thanks. Now we're ready for the next slide, Josh. So I wanted to talk a little bit about COVID-19. You heard earlier about the emergency relief fund that we launched. I think that the global health pandemic presented particular challenges as well as opportunities for our work with immigrant communities. We had to be creative and innovative and think outside the box. So how did the ESU respond to COVID-19? First, we switched all in-person programming to online platforms. By April, we were able to offer almost as many ESL classes as we do outside of a pandemic. Everyone came together, our teachers learned Zoom, our students learned Zoom, and when the teachers ran into technical problems, our students stepped up and became the teachers by helping our teachers figure out how to navigate the technical difficulties they might be encountering with remote platforms. Our English in Action conversation program, again, was successfully launched on remote platforms. This is a tribute to both the staff as well as the tutors and their dedication. They knew that students were motivated to continue learning English, and they found ways to meet with them, whether it was by phone, by FaceTime, by Skype, or by Zoom. We realized that motivation of our students was great during this time, as was their isolation, and we introduced opportunities for additional group conversations during each week. And this is something that we will continue to expand on even after the pandemic. In addition, we introduced a series of town halls. These are programs that we introduced specifically to respond to the particular needs of immigrant clients during the pandemic, but programs that we run throughout the year in person. We had several workshops, 3 during the month of May on job search strategies. We had a workshop by one of our community partners, a bank, on identity theft. And we had a workshop on knowing your rights, particularly in the era of COVID. We also launched an upstander bystander workshop, which is an interactive workshop that offers skills and strategies for intervening if you witness or experience xenophobia or discrimination. Our community partners really stepped up and showed their commitment to our program by offering their knowledge and skills and expertise in leading these workshops. We also reached out individually to 200 ARNIC members. Each student received a phone call from one of our social work interns who was hired as part of our case management program during the pandemic. And they received a check-in call to find out if they needed additional support and to make sure that they did not feel isolated. I think this made a big difference in people's lives to know, as we heard in the earlier quote, that they are important and that the ESU community is behind them and there to help. We also shared weekly resources on COVID, unemployment benefits, tenants' rights, and we collected data. We knew it was important to hear directly from program participants about what they needed and how the pandemic had impacted them. So here's what we found out from our first survey. 40% of our immigrant clients had lost their jobs during the pandemic. 98% could no longer pay their bills, and 50% faced language barriers in accessing external resources. Like many other organizations, though, we knew that we needed to do more than this. So in April, we launched an emergency appeal that you heard about earlier. We've all seen the statistics on how people of color and immigrant communities have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. And even before the pandemic, ARNIC members faced huge challenges. Many of them have low incomes. They all are on scholarships. They have high unemployment rates. Many are skilled immigrants with degrees in higher education. We have program participants who have masters or even PhDs, but despite this, a high percentage of them work at survival jobs, being bicycle messengers. Thanks to the generosity of the ESU family, we were able to raise thousands of dollars. You heard earlier, it was $56,000 that we raised. And in July, we were able to distribute emergency assistance to 117 ARNIC members. Each student received a prepaid gift card in the value of $350. So how was the emergency assistance used? In September, we conducted another survey, and here's what we learned. The support from the ESU made a huge difference in the lives of ARNIC members. 74% used the assistance to buy groceries. Another 35% to buy PPE, masks, and other protective equipment. And 22% used the assistance to supplement them in transportation costs. But ARNIC members are still struggling because of the pandemic, and many are working on frontline jobs to keep us safe. So our plan is to launch another emergency appeal towards the end of this year, and we hope that we can count on you and your generosity to make it a success. At the beginning of this week, we heard about the power of story, and I wanted to end by sharing a few stories from ARNIC members. Jujone is an accountant from Cameroon and a graduate of the ARNIC program. He discovered a passion for poetry while studying English at the ESU. His poetry has appeared in a literary journal published by New York University. And this summer, we were delighted when he participated in a poetry event organized by the Kentucky branch. Thank you so much, Kate, for reaching out to us and including ARNIC members. In fact, 8 ARNIC members submitted poetry for that event, and Dido's poem was selected, the winning poems, and he was able to participate virtually in that event. Maria is an architect from Columbia. After graduating from ARNIC, she found a job at a major New York City architectural firm, and she's now planning to do graduate studies in public policy. And finally, Roberto fled gang violence in Guatemala. His tutor from English in Action encouraged him to apply to a training program in the culinary arts. He was later offered a job at a Michelin-starred restaurant in New York City. I think this gives you some sense of the many faces of success at ARNIC. They speak to the resilience of the students in our program and the power of the ESU programs to transform lives. In the future, we hope to find opportunities to collaborate more with ESU branches around the country. We believe that connections can be made between our programs for English language learners and other ESU educational initiatives. Thank
you.
Anyway, thank you very much. I think you get a good sense of the work that we've been doing as far as our programmatic goals are concerned this year. And as you can see, the COVID crisis did not slow us down. In many instances, it gave us new opportunities to explore. Right now, I want to go back a little bit. A year ago, again, I want to go back to Washington, D.C. And I want to go back to, at that particular time, the board had received a presentation of recommendations from the Strategic Planning Review Committee. And that was a committee that was set up, I think it was set up around the time that I joined the ESU in January of 2019. And the goal of the committee was to review the strategic plan that was done in 2016. And it was a review committee to review those actual recommendations. And as all strategic plans are living documents, it's always important that we as an organization take a look at them every now and then and see how they could be rejiggered or refocused. And I think this particular committee did an incredible job, headed by Julia Hansen, and I know Julia Vanderwater, Robin Sinclair, I mean, a whole slew of people that worked together for about a year and came up with specific recommendations, which at that particular board meeting, that particular in Washington, D.C., at that particular AGM, was presented to the board of directors. And at that particular point, the board did approve these recommendations, and the decision was made to bring them over to the executive committee so that they could start being reviewed and implemented. And what I want to do now is I want to go through those recommendations and give you an update as to where we stand. As with most recommendations, it is a process and we're going through them and we're trying to deal as best we can with those recommendations and also taking them to the next step so we could evolve them and to really move them along. We also wanted to prove the fact that this was not going to be a recommendation that was going to be stuck in a drawer and not dealt with. So I'm going to go over each recommendation now and give you a kind of bullet point as to where we stand. The first recommendation dealt with membership and membership growth as a #1 priority and the financial support given thereto. This received unanimous agreement from the board. A branch task force was created to support us in this effort. The task force consisted of branch leaders, members, board leadership, and a few members of the Strategic Planning Committee. The results of the study and the recommendations will be presented today. Next slide. Okay, recommendation #2. In order to accomplish this top strategic goal, The committee recommends a budget line item for a director of branch relations, membership, and branch growth who will serve as a liaison among the national board, the staff and the branch leadership, and work to support the branches in all ways necessary. The committee also recommends an additional budget line item for travel expenses. After we receive the branch task force results, I am going to show you a new organizational chart and structure approved by the board of directors. So you'll see that later today. In the current climate, travel budgets become Zoom budgets, but I'm sure as we move forward, those kinds of considerations will be taken into consideration. Let's go to recommendation number 3, Josh. Okay, effective, timely, and ongoing communications within a national organization is critical to establishing a sense of unity, promoting creative collaboration, and encouraging strong relationships. As a result of this recommendation, the executive committee has been meeting more frequently to approve and review recommendations in a timely manner. Zoom meetings have allowed us to communicate more quickly on topics like the Centennial campaign, the new audit structure, and other programmatic changes. A marketing communications manager with a branch focus is being hired. The task force had made recommendations in their report will be addressed by the ESU leadership and the team being created national. There is still more work to do. Let's go to recommendation number 4. In order to avoid confusion and to continue strengthening the global identity and strong international partnerships of the ESU, the committee recommends that an updated strategic plan use the term English in Action only in reference to the English in Action one-to-one conversation program. A new brand identity has been launched with a restatement of our mission, expanding minds, strengthening friendships, and unlocking opportunities. Next recommendation, please. The committee recommends as most important the National Shakespeare Competition and the Wrench National Speakers Program, and each should receive financial support, staffing, and program review. New ways to augment, expand these programs should be created and presented to the national board within 6 months or sooner if possible. The growth and support of the programs have become a focal point of our Centennial funding campaign. We are committed to growing these endowments to secure their future. While we do not believe that these programs will always be virtual, Zoom has forced us to explore other approaches. This year, we launched the National Professional Development Programs for teachers and a writing competition for students. We created the Shakespeare Competition Yearbook also in 2020. Wrench was launched in the spring with an in-person events and were converted to Zoom events during the pandemic. Next slide. The committee recommends that the National Board embrace the social component as one of ESU's strength. If adopted, the social component should be emphasized and promoted in future marketing materials, exhibited at headquarters, and included at national meetings. COVID has made this a challenge, but we made every effort to keep members engaged through virtual technologies. Our Happy Hour series, curated and run by members, has been a huge success. Next. The committee recommends that English-speaking union should not brand itself as an institution of higher learning, agreed by the board of directors. Number 8. The committee recommends that all new national board members attend the board orientation and training session under the direction of at least one board member with the assistance of one national staff member. Furthermore, the committee recommends that the national board be regularly updated by the executive director on background, strategy, action summary, cost, progress of current programs. This was launched, this update on this training of the board was actually launched with the class of 2019 of our new board directors, when we were still able to do this in person. We will be restructuring these meetings with a new class and doing them virtually through Zoom. Next recommendation. The committee recommends that all decisions that have financial implications for the branches should be presented to branches for input and approved by the national board before the decisions are implemented. With the new structure of working groups and task force, we have started the process of engaging the branches and their representatives in these decisions. This was done for the elimination of the $75 school fee in the spring of 2019. Most recently, this was done with the audit committee and the branch treasurers on the audit fee. We also feel that with the strengthening of the regional structure, we'll be able to eliminate the lack of communication in the decision-making structure. Next. I think that was it. So I wanted to go through that. And then I also wanted to say that one of the key recommendations that had come out of those initial recommendations was the whole issue of the support of the branches and membership growth. And it was decided by the executive committee to create a branch task force in 2020. And now I'd like to hand it over to Kate Nitskin, who chaired the committee with Susan Ferris, and go through the results of that study. Kate?
Hi, thank you so much, Karen. I am delighted to be here to talk to you today about the branch task force for 2020. And I would like to take a moment to just thank all of the branch task force members who worked tirelessly on this project. We were well represented by individuals from all over the country, the staff, and national board members. As you can see, our purpose was team analysis and the development of the ESU best practices, including gap analysis, recommendations for a way to gauge branch health, and suggested methods to help identify areas of expertise and growth. If you could change the slide. So you can see here that the branch task force members were comprised of the staff, the board of directors, branch presidents, and other key stakeholders. I'm going to read them because it gives you a really good understanding of the breadth of people who were here. So Karen Karpowicz, Josh Capel-Gonzalez, Angela Larson, Dr. Karen Blair Brand, who was the president from the Central Pennsylvania branch, and she was also a member of the board of directors. Julie Jardine, events chair from the New Orleans branch. David Martinelli, an ESU board of directors member. Myself, John Sapp, president of the North Carolina branch. Susan Matheson Ferris, a past president from the Portland branch. Barbara Dotterer, president of North Carolina branch. John Raffaelli, an ESU board of directors member. So we worked in teams to create the following, and you will be given an opportunity to see all of these. I won't go into detail about each one, but please know that over 100 hours of work were contributed by all of the members on this task force with this very large and detailed program. I thank each one of them for all of their contributions. We created a best practices roadmap, which is a historical review. It includes recommendations, and you should be receiving those. And I hope that you'll click on the links down in there and see some of our ideas and thoughts. There was a new concept for best practices. There's a diagram of the ESU interactions. There's an ESU best practice benchmark measurement for success, guidelines for how to implement the ESU performance plan, branch philosophical overview, and that includes the thoughts of the committee members and suggestions for organizational improvement. There is a response to the 6 questions that were posed by Karen that we worked on. There was a branch health organizational chart, and there are questions for additional surveying of the branches using the Gallup method and some other tools that we created as well. There were some stumbling blocks after all of these committee presentations. How can we keep our branches unique? Why branches might resist being evaluated for success, why some task force members still resisted after our work was complete, and the reasons were that branches like our individuality, they like what they do, and branches can be struggling but still stay afloat to get assistance. So what is best for the entire organization, and how can updated recommendations take place so that people are not offended? If you could change the slide. Why should we use a best practices approach? First of all, we determined why members were involved with the ESU. Members care about the English-speaking union because they believe in the importance of educational scholarship and the collaborative diversity of students, teachers, and members through connectivity of the English language. Why use a new best practices approach? Improved best practices will help the English-speaking union to advance its mission. Best practices improve functions of the English-speaking union, including governance, communication and marketing, services provided, and consumers served. Best practices expand the competitive edge of the English-speaking union. Increased outreach to gain more public interest regarding educational programming, scholarly educational and cultural events programs to improve instructional practice and scholarly pursuits, a shared appreciation for British history and social engagement, and interactive dialogue to improve international communication. Branches need improvement with updated technology platforms to target improved end user experience, enhanced communication to improve branch outreach and internal operations, increased memberships through relevant activities and targeted programming, improved marketing and fundraising methods to generate branch funds, targeted procedures to bring in greater participation, engaged membership, and active boards, improved communication tools with interactive methods to link consumers served, and active use of volunteer talent with improved collaborative efforts, reasonable, measurable, and realistic timelines for branch improvement, streamlined financial, ethical, and legal policies across the organization. Organization structuring suggestions were submitted by the committees, and you can see here that we recommended a branch health and growth organizational chart. You can see that there will be a branch liaison who will work with the branches for health and growth, supervise online and web-based programs for branches, supervise and assist with the development of action plans by branches, utilize mentoring programs and regional directors to assist branch growth and development. There will also be a chair of regional directors. Those principal responsibilities would be to train and recruit regional directors, serve as a regional director for branches not served by a region. Regional directors and their principal responsibilities would be to monitor programs and activities of all branches in a region, assist the branch liaison and the branch presidents to enhance branch health and growth. And these are geared to help us be able to better communicate with the national organization. Our final recommendations. If the board of directors approve moving forward with the recommendations by the branch task force, several things would help. Hiring a branch liaison advocate, hiring an accomplished marketing and communications staff member, introducing the benchmarks concept to a focus group of branch presidents representing all 3 levels of branch health, and then get feedback. Introduce the benchmarks concept to the ESU staff, get feedback. Make adjustments to the plan based on feedback from those focus groups. Create and implement a final best practice plan using the guidelines suggested. Develop evaluation tools at all levels to help the organization and branches measure the level of engagement by our membership. And the implementation of best practices requires careful cost analysis to determine the feasibility.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you. That was a really great summation. As I said, these particular slides will be available to you, but there also is some of the reports that Kate has referenced will also be made available to you to review. So I just wanted to make an announcement now about how, with those recommendations, which were approved by the executive committee and the board, we've started to move forward on some of these changes. And the biggest one is establishing the structure within the office that could help start supporting these efforts. And I just wanted to announce to everyone that this is the section that is specifically geared towards branch services. And we have decided to appoint Josh Capel as Director of Branch Services, who will now be responsible for a department that will have under him a membership secretary. Everyone knows it's Kathy. And then we were also in the process of hiring a branch marketing communications manager, which we hope to have in place in the next month or two. Additionally, I think that you'll all agree that in order for Josh to succeed, we have to get things off his plate and we have to give him the support that he needs. And a big part of the branch efforts and branch services, I think, will now be able to be taken over and has been taken over with the help of our new controller and operations manager and her team, in particular, the appointment of a branch financial administrator, and that's Tony DiFilippo. And I think all of the treasurers and some of the branches have already been dealing with Tony. And I believe that Tony will be a big support to the branches with financial information, but also with some of the governance issue also. And we also have the support of Angela and our new bookkeeper, Jenny. So I think all of these things will help add to the support of Josh, so that it's not just a title in name only, but it actually becomes a real department and a real opportunity for us to help the branches grow. In addition to that, what I didn't include on the chart was really, the program people, who are always a very big part of the branch programs, who will continue doing the work that they will do. So finally, I have one more slide, which is just the next step slide. So Josh, would you just show us the next step slide? And Josh, do you want to go over some of these, because this is your baby. So do you want to talk a little bit?
You should be able to hear me now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry, there's a lot of different pieces that I have to move around just to talk.
But I thought everyone would love to hear from you. And I think that you've done an incredible job in relationship to the branches to date. And you're certainly doing a great job in relationship to the AGM. And I thought they'd love to hear from you. So please.
Well, yeah, I'm very happy to now move into a very kind of formalized Director of Branch Services role. I think I've been helping and supporting branches for the last 5 years, and I think I have a good hold on the personality of our branches across the country, who they are, and what they need. So I'm looking forward to kind of using that experience and the time I spent with you, and also kind of my technological skills to kind of further your impact locally in your communities, and also kind of create some new structures with our regionality, so that we can start supporting each other internally as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an interesting and fun process going forward.
Anyway, thank you. So I guess the top things that we're going to be working on now is the hiring of that the new marketing and communications manager, and getting started next spring on the development of a new website, which in a way I'm kind of happy that we didn't do last year, because with the changes in technology and with the impact of technology on our lives, we're probably looking to a much different type of kind of system to put into place for the organization. So anyway, I want to thank everybody, because this was truly a team effort. And as you can see, there were a lot of people involved in this particular process. So does anyone have any questions? As I said, you will be receiving, there's a lot here for you to digest. You'll be receiving a lot of information. But if you have any questions on this or anything else that we discussed throughout the session, you could put it in the chat so we can see it. Okay.
So there are 65 of us on board at the moment, and we'd love to hear some questions or some observations. I think one of the things that I know I have heard continually through my chairmanship and on the opportunity that I've had to listen what the branches have to say is the stressing the need for a much stronger liaison between the central office and the branches. And I think thanks to Kate and her report, which I've now heard several times, and I have to say every time Kate delivers this report, I learn something new, something that my brain didn't quite click on the last time. It comes foremost into my mind, and I really do think it's a very, very thorough and a very, very well prepared report. I think you and your committee have done a sterling job. And I think, Josh, I'm really looking forward to you taking over that key liaison role, which I believe is going to really make all of the difference. Some questions. Susan. No question, but Susan is very impressed with the report. Well, I think everybody is. No other questions, no other observations?
Sylvia Bruton has raised her hand. I think I'm going to bring her in as a panelist so she can ask the question with audio.
Okay, that's great.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. My question would be, are there going to be many other opportunities as well for the branches themselves to share best practices? I find that through the years that I have been president and on the national board and all sorts of things, that one of the strongest things that I've experienced have been the suggestions and ideas that have been exchanged amongst the branches. I said of Shakespeare, he was a great believer in copying anything that he could that was useful to him. So if one of the branches has a wonderful program that is successful, that is helping them achieve their goals of funding and more members and more board members and so forth, we should be given an opportunity, I think, at these conferences to be able to have those exchanges and then come up with these terrific ideas, because then national, of course, could know about those as well. But I think the branches themselves also feel as though they have accomplished something when they have a program that they can share with others. It gives them confidence, and it gives the rest of us great confidence that we have a tremendous team out there. So that's my suggestion, my question.
Well, no, let me just answer that then. And I think that the strengthening of the regional structure will allow a regular dialogue at the branch level. And what we're hoping is through those regional interchange, and also through the use of Zoom, because I think Zoom, whether or not, we're going to go back to our lives the way that they were, but Zoom is not going to be going away. And one of the things, having Josh in a leadership position, and what his background is the ability to use so many of these technologies so that the branches can continue to communicate amongst each other on a local level. And then hopefully through this new structure, start bringing up the ideas to the national level. So I think that the communication is going to be the key. And I think Josh is an incredible communicator and understands the technology. And I think we're off to a good start.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So moving now on with our agenda.
I think if nobody has any more questions, we're ready to adjourn.
Nobody. Okay. Well, before we adjourn, I would just like to draw attention to and give just a resounding note of thanks and gratitude to those members of the board who are rotating off at this point. Not only are they from the national board, but many are involved in local branches, and a number have been very heavily involved in the ESU for a long time. I'd like to begin by thanking Charles Reeves. Charles, who was first elected to the board in 2013. I'd like to thank Judge James Kerr. Thank you again very, very much for all the work that you've done, and Charles, for the various committees that you've chaired. Donald Best has been one of our strongest and most stalwart supporters, and I have a suspicion will be somebody who will be very much in the shadows of the ESU, and I know is somebody who will step forward when he's called again to help us. But I acknowledge the fact that Donald has not only been a huge financial support to the organization, but his level of involvement has been tremendous. I've pretty much seen him at all our international conference meetings, and his sense of globalization and his desire to link America with the world is very much at the heart and soul of what the English-speaking union is about. And I think we were all very, very proud to see him receive the Princess Anne Award the other evening. Karen Blair Brand, likewise, originally from our Washington branch, has done a tremendous, tremendous job in galvanizing and re-establishing the Washington branch of the ESU. Her tireless enthusiasm and absolute commitment to the work we do, I think, has been remarkable. And Karen, again, I know I'm going to be calling on you to assist us once we begin our United Nations Fellowship Program, which I hope we'll be able to start next year. Your involvement in the UN Association and in Things International, again, having been almost a constant participant in the international council meetings, I think will be an absolute marvelous addition. So again, we hope that you will continue your involvement. Bill Nashmeyer has had one of the longest, even though he joined the board in 2014, Bill's, I think, association and connection with the ESU is a very, very long, deep and enduring one. And I know, Bill, that we will miss your sound and your very, very sensible input at our board meetings, as well as the perspective, the cultural and the historical perspective that you're able to bring to our deliberations and our meetings. And Jeff Schnabel. Jeff, again, very, very sorry to see you leave the board at this point. We look forward, however, knowing that you are going to continue your association with the ESU, as I hope indeed everybody will, and that we'll have an opportunity again to call on you when and as needed, because I know that you, like everyone else, is very, very deeply committed to the English-speaking union. So with those words of thanks from everyone, from the entire board and the membership of the English-speaking union, I reach out to our branches and I wish all of you the very, very best in our centennial year. I hope you're able to have some semblance of celebration, even if it's a solitary drink in the bar or in the living room or out in the garden maybe, just to raise a glass to the toast for the English-speaking union of the United States in our 100th year. Thank you all very, very much.